So welcome everyone to our session design workshop for our 2026 summer meeting. I am Alicia Crawl. I'm ESIP's community director and will be delivering the content for the workshop today. I'm also joined by Zoe Genties, our communications director, who is here to support and answer questions. You're welcome to paste any questions that you have in the chat, and Zoe will be sure to get those answered or get me to make sure I'm answering them since I'm sharing my screen. But we will also have space throughout the hour where I will pause to take questions. This is a session design workshop, so I will be actively applying many of the design principles I share as an example of some best practices. So I want to cover a few logistics before we get started. We've developed a collaborative notes document for your use today, and I know I've shared it already several times. Thank you, Zoe, for sharing it again. But you all are welcome to jot down any notes that you have as we go through the content together. And then as an ESIP event, everyone is expected to follow our community participation guidelines. So these guidelines outline unacceptable behaviors and how to report them. If you're not familiar with them, they are linked in the notes document, but I'm also going to link them into the chat so that you have them. If you're not familiar with our guidelines, because you are session co-organizers, we just ask that everyone does review those before our July meeting. But before I begin, I want to acknowledge the contributions made by Charlie Haley and Megan Orlando to the content of this workshop. Charlie actually served as an external consultant for ESIP for several years to help us continue to improve our meetings so they are more engaging and interactive. And Megan actually served in my position from 2018 through June of last year and supported pulling in content to ensure it was most relevant to ESIP. So we have two primary goals for today. The first is to provide some guidance on designing an engaging and inclusive session for everyone who attends the ESIP meeting. And then second, we want to ensure all of you know expectations and the resources and tools available to you through ESIP to support your sessions. So to meet those goals, we have set up the following agenda. We're going to start by diving into some session design tips, discussing some specific areas we think are important. We'll then pause to have you all reflect and share your tips for successful session design. Then we'll review the tools you'll have available to you through ESIP and additional upcoming opportunities outside of this workshop to support you. And then we'll end with the logistics to walk through what to expect over the next couple of months. So we'll get started with session design tips. I'm going to be covering different things you can consider in order to improve on your session, some of which may be new to you. This is not meant to be overwhelming. In fact, you should not try to do everything that I go over today. So stick to core techniques that you are comfortable with, and then consider some variety by trying one new technique or tool based on what is needed for your session to be successful. So I want to begin, especially for those who have never attended an ESIP meeting, by stating that ESIP meetings are different. I have this quote I'm sharing from Megan, my predecessor, who does a good job of describing why that is. We're a community of doers and gather because we want to find collaborators and we want to work together. We want our ESIP meetings to reflect that. So at the heart of ESIP and its meetings are the people. So the meeting content is community contributed and driven, and we want to protect it as a space where we feel comfortable discussing where we struggle, our challenges, and can be more experimental in our approach so we can learn together. The session you are designing is as much about making connections with the community as it is about what you have to share. So we really treasure this approach and want to elevate it by providing workshops like this to encourage that collaboration. So we're going to focus on 3 session design tips. Stephanie just asked about the slides. Yes, Stephanie, they are linked into the notes document. We're going to focus on 3 session design tips today. Once we have covered these, we will offer some time and space for you all to share additional tips that you would like with the group. Tip 1 is to design with intention. Intentional design helps give the session direction. Tip 2 is to design for engagement. Engagement design will give the session energy. And then tip 3 is to design for inclusion. Inclusive design ensures the session is accessible and welcoming to anyone who wants to participate. So the goal of tip one, design with intention, is to ensure every part of the session serves a clear purpose. So an important thing to remember here is that if you don't design intentionally, your session will still be designed. It will just be by default. So designing with intention ensures your session has a clear purpose, a deliberate flow, and a meaningful takeaway for participants. It protects the purpose of the session, so it prevents sessions from becoming unfocused dumps of a lot of information with no connection. It aligns activities with outcomes, so what participants do should directly support what you want them to leave with. It reduces cognitive overload, so intentional design will prevent overwhelm and decision fatigue. It respects participants' time and energy by signaling that their time is being used wisely. And then it improves coordination across multiple speakers. So shared intentions creates coherence instead of a string of disconnected talks. And then as a facilitator, you can help make those connections. So I want to now go through some specific actions you can take to design with intention. Don't worry about jotting all of this down. Back to Stephanie's point, we've created the notes document linking to the slides, but we also have a worksheet for all of you, and I'm going to add that link into the chat. It's also available in the notes document for you to access there. But it's basically going to be a space where you can work through each of the things that I go through on your own after today's session. But the first thing you want to do is clarify the purpose of your session. You can do this by writing a one-sentence purpose statement. You will also want to identify 1 to 2 key outcomes, not more. In most cases, you only have 90 minutes, and you want to be sure you can accomplish what you hope to in that amount of time. So as important as what you want to do is identifying what you don't want to do as well. And then once your outcomes have been identified, you can then identify activities that align with those. So for each outcome, you will want to list what participants will actually do to achieve them. And you can then identify activities that should be removed if they don't support one of your outcomes. And then try to get out of the habit of doing something just because you've always, done it that way. And you should not feel like removing content means that you cannot do those activities at another time. Try to take a broader view of all the opportunities available through ESIP to accomplish what you want to do together. So this is our second meeting of the year. We have another one happening at the beginning of next year. And then between those, many of our collaboration areas meet monthly to continue their progress on work that they start or continue through our meetings. But by thinking about your design with this in mind, it takes the pressure off. Everything doesn't have to be accomplished in 90 minutes. It's just one step along a path to get you where you want to go. And you can always end the session by inviting attendees to join the next step on that journey. So some additional actions you can take to design with intention is to simplify ruthlessly. So try to limit what you hope to convey in 1 to 2 key messages. You can cut or move nice to have content to a pre-reading or a follow-up activity. And then again, remember those steps along a longer path. You can also reduce the number of slides to make more room for interaction. Next, you don't just design the content, also consider the flow. You may want to map the session to ensure it includes opportunities to engage, explore, or synthesize information. I encourage everyone to have at least one reflection moment. This can be a really powerful tool before opening up something for discussion. It allows participants some time to pull together their thoughts. And you can develop detailed agenda with time blocks that includes transitions between activities. So this connects nicely with the next session of coordinating with your session co-organizers. You should assign roles ahead of time, including a facilitator to lead the session and move through the agenda. You should also assign a Zoom co-host to monitor the chat. There will be a community fellow in your room who will start the Zoom room and assist with any technical issues that may arise, but it's your responsibility to identify someone who can elevate contributions from online participants. And then we also ask that folks designate a note taker to record important information. And then coordinating with your team is a lot easier if you share a run of show in advance. I have added a template for a run of show to the session design worksheet that I just shared with you all. The sections of the run of show allow you to outline the agenda in detail with start and end times, facilitation instructions, and sharing this with your co-organizers will ensure everyone is clear on who is doing what and when. So something to note here is that everything will take longer than you think it will. So be sure to plan ahead for that and be specific about what you want from your speakers and how much time they are going to have. So before we transition to the next tip, I want to pause here to check if anyone has any questions around designing with intention. Feel free to raise your hand or type your questions into the chat. Alrighty, with no questions, I am going to continue. So tip two, design for engagement. The goal here is to ensure participants are active contributors and collaborators, not just passive listeners in your session. So within ESIP, engagement is not just a nice to have, it is how learning, trust, and collaboration actually happen within our organization. So why is that important? Engagement drives learning and retention. People remember what they interact with. Engagement helps build psychological safety and belonging. So when participants are invited to contribute early and often, they feel they belong in the space. It also distributes expertise. So engagement recognizes that knowledge doesn't come from just the presenters. So participants bring use cases, lived experience, and applied expertise that can be shared through the session. And then engagement sustains energy in virtual environments. So without engagement, virtual fatigue rises quickly. So we want to extend in-person engagement into that virtual space. This is a hybrid meeting, so there will be both in-person and online participants. And then engagement also turns sessions into relationship building spaces. So as mentioned previously, this is essential in community driven meetings like ESIP. So I want to now go through some specific actions you can take to design for engagement. Again, don't worry about jotting all of this down. You'll have access to the slides in the workshop template. But connecting back to designing with intention, build interaction into the agenda. So consider adding an engaging moment every 10 to 15 minutes. This can be as simple as asking folks to respond to a question in the chat or pausing to take questions from the audience after a presentation. And also think of mixing it up a bit by using multiple modes of interaction. So think of at least two ways to engage participants so you're not relying on only one participation channel. So consider low risk types of engagement like polls, notes, and check-ins on chat. Next, think about how to ask better questions. So instead of asking, does anyone have any thoughts on this, with something like, where does this show up in your own work? Breakouts are also a great way to engage participants, but they need to be structured clearly. So you can provide written prompts in your notes document, adding space for the group to assign a facilitator and a note taker. And I'll talk a little bit more about the notes document that I'm referencing in a little bit. But be sure to give a clear task, a time limit, and way for the group to report back, even if that's just adding a summary into the notes document for participants to review at a later time. So before I transition to the next tip, I again wanted to pause here to check if anyone has any questions about designing for engagement. And earlier this year too, someone had asked about examples of engaging sessions within ESIP. So I did add some examples that were shared with me by members of the community to the notes document. So if you're interested in checking those out, those are available there as well. Alrighty, with no questions, I am going to transition. Oh, I just saw a question from Paul. Yes, so Paul is asking about Slido, which is a tool that we offer for our session organizers. And I'll be talking about those tools here in just a little bit, and we'll provide more information. Thanks, Paul. So, tip three, design for inclusion, is to remove barriers so participation is possible for the widest range of people. So again, why is that important? It expands who is able to participate. So any type of barrier, whether it be technical or physical, quietly excludes people. It creates multiple ways to engage. So some participants prefer speaking, some writing, some reflecting, some observing. It also reduces power imbalances. So clear instructions and structured prompts and multiple tools lower intimidation. Designing for inclusion also supports neurodiversity and different learning styles. So visual, verbal, written, and reflective options ensure no one has to adapt to a single narrow mode. It increases the quality and diversity of outcomes. So more inclusive participation produces better questions, more representative feedback, and more creative solutions. And it also helps signal our community's values in action. So inclusiveness should be more than a value that we have on ESIP's website. It's something people should feel and that can be done through how the session is designed. So, specific actions you can take to design for inclusion, lowering technical barriers. So, we mentioned earlier about identifying multiple ways to engage participants, but you don't want to go overboard. You want to limit the number of tools used in a session, especially if you decide to use one that requires some level of onboarding for participants to use it effectively. For links, share them in advance, include them in the chat and in the shared notes document. This just ensures everyone can easily find them when they are referenced. And tools can sometimes fail, as we all know, so always consider backups to have available. And then, as I mentioned before, designing for multiple ways to participate also supports inclusion. So never require speaking as the only way to contribute, provide written, visual, and reflective options as well. Some additional actions you can take are to reduce cognitive overload. So you can do this by using a clear agenda, making transitions explicit, and offering verbal signpost. Avoid adding too much content to slides and using dense technical explanations without some form of framing. Another action you can take is to acknowledge and disrupt power imbalances. So, small breakout groups can reduce intimidation and making contributions. And you can also encourage contributions from those who might bring a new perspective to what is being discussed, not just those who you may already know who are sitting in the room. So ESIP's July meeting includes virtual participants that you want to consider throughout leading your session. So at the beginning, be sure to invite input from the Zoom chat. You should assign a Zoom moderator, again, to elevate those contributions to the in-person space. And then use the collaborative notes document that I'm going to show you later to share links to content and to make it easier for virtual attendees to add their contributions. If you have in-person breakouts, also include virtual breakout groups. And be sure all of the breakout rooms will have a microphone. So just be sure to use that for all in-room discussions so virtual participants and also in-person participants can hear clearly. And again, there will be a wireless microphone in each of the breakout rooms. And then, similar to last year, we will be supporting asynchronous participation for our colleagues in Australia. Based on feedback from them from last year, there are a few things you can do to support their engagement. So provide a detailed session description so they can determine if they want to view your session recording. Again, they'll be reviewing the sessions when many of us will be sleeping after the end of our day. It also helps to provide detailed notes from your session. So again, please consider designating a note taker and someone who's not actively engaged in facilitating the session. If the Hub and Spoke views your session recording, they may add questions and comments to your session notes document after your session ends. So just go into your notes the next day so you can add a response if they have any comments or anything that they have added or questions that they've added asynchronously to that document. So this slide is provided by our colleagues in Australia who ran the first hub meeting last year. And as I mentioned, they're planning on doing it again this year. They are really interested in exploring ways of making conferences and events more widely accessible. They'll actually be leading a session one afternoon on running effective hybrid events. They're interested in engaging more with others who are interested in this kind of hub and spoke model and how it might be applied. So Stephanie has left her email address on this slide if you're interested in exploring this a little bit more. And I think Stephanie's with us today. I don't know, Stephanie, if you have anything you would like to add. And thank you, Stephanie. She also added the email address into the chat.
Um, Thanks, Alicia. Good morning, everybody. For me, it's morning. Thanks for giving us the option to just briefly say what we're doing. So we're doing what we've been doing at the last couple of ESIP meetings. So we'll be, as Alicia said, reviewing recordings or viewing recordings, discussing them in small groups. If anyone's interested in knowing more about this, exploring this option for their own locations or their own groups, please let me know. We're always happy to exchange information. We're trying a similar thing actually with the Open Repositories Conference next week, which will be slightly different, but also another hub thing. So if you're interested in any of that, let me know. There's also a channel on the ESIP Slack where you can post comments if you would like. I think it's called Bridging Time Zones. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And again, Stephanie added her email address into the chat if anyone would like to connect with them about the Australia hub. So again, I just want to pause here to check if anyone has any questions about designing for inclusion. And as before, feel free to raise your hand or type your questions into the chat. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. I have a question about the maybe assumed audience of ESIP since I've never attended. Um, I assume that also making an inclusive session involves like understanding the knowledge background of your audience. So I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so everyone generally is doing work in Earth data science or, Earth data science professions, but they come with a wide variety of expertise. Within our session descriptions, we ask everyone to be very specific about who should attend their session. So if you need to come to the session with some knowledge of a specific thing, just to be very explicit about that. And if anyone who's attending the meeting would get something out of your session, then you can add that as well. But that's kind of a way that we signal to participants which sessions are ones that they may not get a lot out of because they go to the session and they're like, I have no idea what everyone's talking about. And so that's kind of how we provide that guidance because there is such a wide range of expertise. And we do have sessions that are very focused on a specific skill set or a specific type of expertise. And so we want to be sure you all get out of the session what you would like to as well. So we try to direct people by doing it that way through the description.
Great, that helps a lot. I had another question. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll keep going.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
I had
We have
another
time.
question related to like the roles that you're describing, and maybe you're gonna get to this in another slide, but it sounds like you're suggesting that there should be a Zoom moderator and a note taker, and then a third person that's maybe actually leading the session. Is that right?
Yeah, and all of the sessions will have a community fellow assigned to your session, and
Hmm.
they help support Zoom. They'll get Zoom connected and help with any technical issues arise. I will connect y'all with your fellow prior to your session. And so if you're interested in asking the fellow to help moderate the chat for your session, they can help facilitate or support that. So it's kind of up to you. But we would ask that you ask that of them prior to and not, the day of, just so they can, know kind of what is expected when they go to the session.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. So I really like the concept of including more folks who are attending virtually in kind of that hub and spoke model. And I'm just wondering to kind of accurately acknowledge those folks if they're attending a session as a group or maybe individually. Are there already lists of those hybrid groups in place? Um, or is it something that people are kind of just joining individually and then, oh, I see you must be part of this particular cluster?
Yeah, right now we only have the group in Australia that's going to be joining in this way. And they are currently in the process, and I see Stephanie raised her hand. They're currently in the process of identifying, I guess, the scale that the event will be for them as they're going through the planning process. But go ahead, Stephanie.
Sorry. Hi, Chris. Great question. One thing, we will not be joining many sessions because they're just in the middle of the night for us. So if we join any, it's probably going to be the last two maximum. And if we join as a hub, we will sort of have an avatar that shows us as a group, and we will be labeled Australia Hub or something like that. That's what
Awesome.
we did for the first meeting, and we will. If we put our names in the notes, we normally have Australian Hub, and then we put all our names of whoever is in the room. We're not quite sure yet if we're doing in person or virtual or a mix of both, but we'll try to label us if that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
awesome.
gr
Mhm.
Yeah, and especially even for some government folks who might not be able to travel, being able to have them
Yes.
participate in a group like that is fantastic. Makes it feel much more engaging. Yeah.
And much more like an event. We actually have a couple of write-ups from the ESIP meeting a year ago. I can see if I can find the links quickly and put them in the notes document or into the chat because it actually shows a little bit what we did and how we did it and how people experienced it.
Nice.
And Zoe can help with that as well, Stephanie, since she's on the call. Find those blog posts and get them added too. So
Wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, no problem. And there's also, and I'll mention this again later, there is a Slack channel dedicated to the meeting. It's Austin-2026. And so that's also another platform that everyone can use to communicate, especially with that asynchronous contribution, and just learning a little bit more about how folks are participating. So feel free to use that as well for anything that you might need. Is it Nazila? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Nazila, that's close enough. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you so much for setting this up in a Pacific time zone. So I really appreciate it. I know for some of you, or I at least I know one of my colleagues is it's past his work time, so I appreciate him being here. I've been to a couple of in-person ESIPs, and I've definitely been on the phone for other ones. I think you don't have to have a breakout session, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
You
great.
have
That's what.
full flexibility as
Okay.
a section organizer to organize it or design it in whatever way you would like.
Okay.
I think the big thing again is to think about what are you trying to get out of the session? What are your goals? And that'll help you
Right.
identify if that's something you
Yeah.
need or not. Yeah.
I I think I know that if it's sometimes it's really awkward to jump in to a breakout and realize you're the only one. Everyone else knows each other, and it's not always easy to cut in and meet people. So whereas you should use it as an opportunity to get awkward and meet people, sometimes you just want to like run away from the room because you
Right.
just don't know. So there's that. And I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, I would love to have some virtual participation. So my question, so that's a long way of going around. The thing I love about the ESIP platform for meetings is that you can see who's interested in your session and you have a better idea of how many people might be in I'm using in quotes, the room.
hmm
Like I know there are competing sessions and you may want to go to one session and another session. You don't really know who you're going to end up in your session. But I think sometimes that helps figure out exactly like how far you're willing to take it. Like, do you really need to like maybe start at a more basic level, more foundational, because you'll have this wide variety of people who are joining the meeting, or you're going to maybe be able to understand the people that are in the room because you're familiar with them, and you might be able to tailor some of the discussion to the things they're working on a little bit. I guess but anyway, I appreciate the fact that you can see who's interested. I also appreciate the fact that you can also tell people what the comfort level is. Like, this is better for someone who's just trying to get started versus somebody who has like proficiency in whatever topic, whether it's coding or interoperability or understanding, like overall. So I think those are things that, as a session organizer, it might be good to go back in and make sure that the content that you're putting together matches what your initial idea of who might come to your session might be.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for those comments. And we do ask for folks, and I'll show y'all again the notes documents that we create for everyone. We ask for folks that participate in your session to sign in and add their contact information. And this is also another way, if you get to the end of the 90 minutes and just kind of have a really great discussion going and want to continue that, that you have a way to connect with everyone. And then again, ESIP is a space that provides those conversations to continue after the event as well. So yeah, it's a really great way to learn from each other, learn who's in the community and who's interested in the same topics that you are, for sure. So before I wrap up this section, I want to emphasize that this is the type of design may be very different, again, than what you're used to doing. And that's totally okay. So we want to share some ideas with you, but you can synthesize all of this information into a simple design check. So for the intention, can you clearly state why the session exists in a sentence? For engagement, do participants actively contribute more than once? And then for inclusion, are there multiple ways for people to participate without speaking or being on camera? And so in summary, design with intention by aligning every activity to a small number of clear outcomes. Design for engagement by making participation frequent, varied, and safe. And then design for inclusion by lowering barriers and expanding how people can contribute. So I'm going to stop here to do a quick reflection activity. I'll probably cut it a little bit shorter, so we have plenty of time to go through the session design tools and some of the next steps. But you all may have been thinking about different ways you have led meetings or workshops to make them more engaging or inclusive. So I want to take just a little bit of time for you all to jot down any additional tips or ideas that you have that you would like to share with everyone. I'm adding a link into the chat. It'll take you directly to that location in the notes document. We had the same workshop yesterday at a different time to accommodate all the different time zones. And so you'll see that some folks have already added some comments there. But we just wanted to take about a few minutes to do this, and then we'll see if anyone wants to share their tip verbally. So I'm just going to put a few minutes on the timer, and I'll let y'all know when we have just about 30 seconds or so left. We'll take one more minute. Well, I'm going to open it up, and I know folks are still adding some of their ideas, but would anyone like to share what they wrote into the document?
I will.
Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I have found that not necessarily my own sessions, but sessions that are particularly engaging are ones where there's something that makes you get out of your chair and go to a corner of the room or to a station or, go look at a poster or, get out of your chair, off your computer, off your phone and move. And I think that helps people get engaged.
That's a great tip, Beth. I even know some folks have even had people do a little bit of a yoga stretch or something before things get
Yeah,
started. Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
always a great idea. Does anyone else have a tip or recommendation or anything that they would like to share with the group? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Sorry, just a quick one. For us online, it's often impossible to know what the room vibe is. So, because the cameras tend to be geared showing the speaker, so we have no idea is this a room with 500 people or a room with 5 people. It's actually nice if the facilitator says as the start up, we have about X people, like 30 people in the room, and we have however many people online because if those that makes those two groups aware of each other and it makes it harder to forget the online people, and on the other hand for the online people it gives them a bit of an idea what's actually happening. um, it's even better if you can sort of show the room, but I know the technical setup doesn't necessarily allow that. So in particular, I found it really hard in sessions that I facilitate virtually. If I'm not in the room, I have no idea what's going on. If I'm speaking into a black hole or if there's engaged people waiting for us to talk, I have no idea. So getting a bit of a room vibe is helpful.
Yeah, that's really great, Stephanie. Thank you. And yeah, just because of this cost associated with having cameras everywhere and all of the things, we do have some limitations on, virtual participation. And we call it a hybrid event, but it's not truly hybrid because the experience is a little bit different for the virtual participants because of some of those limitations with the technology that we have access to, unfortunately. Well, I am going to get us going again. Let me share my screen again. Okay, can everyone see okay? All
Can
right.
I just throw something out there as an idea in response to that last suggestion? Because
Yeah.
I share that it is really awful is to be online and not have any idea what's happening
Yeah.
in the black hole that's
Uh-huh.
that's the actual meeting space. I have been in sessions before where somebody just put their laptop at the front of the room and turned it around and showed the room that way and displayed it. You can sometimes display it online and that can actually just do the trick.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
And there are some of those cheaper cameras too. I know last year the AV folks that were there tried to set those up for some of the sessions as well. But I think that's a really good point. We have guidance that we share with the session organizers as well. And so I can add some of those additional ideas so folks are just aware of what will actually be in the room in terms of technology and what they might want to bring just to make it a better experience for those online participants. So I think that's really great. Thank you both for bringing that up. And I like that idea too, Stephanie, about sharing photos and stuff on Slack as well. That's a great idea. So we're now going to transition into discussing the various tools and other support available to you to help with designing your session. So for each session, ESIP has created a collaborative Google Notes document for you and a space for you to upload any presentations or resources that you want to share. So each session will have a folder with that notes document. And then again, if you want to upload presentations and stuff into that space, that's where you will go. I added a link into the chat. It's also in the notes document. But the notes document will be linked from your session in Sched, which is our meeting platform. It's also the platform you're going to register. In addition, we have accounts with Slido and Miro that are available for you to use. If you want to use either of these tools, you need to request access by emailing community@esipfed.org, and I'll add that email address into the chat. We will then share a link with you so you can set these tools up in any way that you would like to. So a bit more about them. Slido is commonly used to capture questions and answers. We actually use it during the plenaries. You can also select an option to upvote which questions folks want to prioritize answering. You can access different polling tools for rating or ranking items, and you can have folks enter open text to create a word cloud. There's lots of different options you can play around with, but again, if you're interested in just exploring it and seeing how it is, you can send us that email and we'll get it set up for you, and you can kind of play around with it to determine if you want to use it for your session, but you'll have it available if you would like. And then Miro sort of replaces the flip chart, sticky notes, and whiteboards for use in a virtual or a hybrid space. You can use it for just about anything, but some common uses have included collecting questions or comments and collecting feedback. There are tons of templates that are available through Miro, but you can also customize your onboard. You can play around with those to determine what might work for you. And again, so if you think you might be interested but are not really sure yet, just let us know. We can set up the space, and then you can make that decision after you try it out. So here are just a couple of examples of Miro boards to give you a sense of how they can be utilized. You can create multiple whiteboards for different parts of your meeting. You can pre-populate sticky notes so participants can add their content to them. And you can use different colors of stickers to represent different themes if you want. We definitely encourage creativity in how you use these boards. But the canvas space in Miro is finite, but I do want to warn a bit on accessibility here. So Miro requires some level of onboarding to get participants comfortable with using the tool. Don't just assume anyone coming to your meeting is familiar with Miro and knows exactly what to do. So just be sure you take time and space to onboard everyone to make sure they're comfortable. But you also want to provide other ways that individuals can contribute that may not want to interact with the board. You don't want folks to get frustrated and be like, well, I can't contribute because I'm not able to get this board working for me. So just always have another way that folks can add their content if they would like to. And again, just another note, the platform is also not very accessible for screen readers. So just again, something to think about when you're adopting tools for these types of events. So any questions about the Google Drive, Slido, or Miro before we end with our logistics? Paul's asking if there's a deadline for emailing those requests. We usually like for you to ask and get that set up at least a week in advance so that we're not in chaos mode as we get closer to the meeting. So that would be great. However, if there are some last minute requests, we try to make that happen for you if we can. We'll let you know. Yes, as Zoe said. Thank you. Any other questions about those tools? And again, if you're not familiar with them, feel free to ask for it. We can get it set up. And then if you decide not to use it, that's totally fine. So, alrighty. So we're going to end covering the logistics of what to expect over the next 2 months up until the meeting. So we want to alleviate any concerns you may have regarding the logistics, especially again, if you're new to ESIP meetings. But as we have mentioned in the communications that have gone out, we provide one comp registration for a presenter in your session who has never been to an ESIP meeting before. So there's one per session, and it has to be for someone who's never attended an ESIP meeting before. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make balloons fly. Um, this is separate from the needs-based registration that is open to anyone who would like to request support to attend the meeting. And the request for that speaker comp is due on Monday, June 29th. And there's a form that I've been sharing through the communications I've been sent out. But once you've registered for the meeting, we will be able to add you to your session, which will allow you to get into Sched, our meeting platform, to make updates to your session description. So as we've been talking about, if you want to make updates, who should attend your session as your session's evolving and you want to make changes to it, you're welcome to go into the platform and make those changes yourself. However, if you want to change the title of your session or the presenters associated with your session, staff will have to do that for you, and we're totally fine doing that. You just need to email that community@esipfed.org email address, and we'll take care of that for you. But typically, we like to have those descriptions finalized in late June. Again, just so folks who are attending the meeting can determine which sessions they want to attend. Be sure that the description lets attendees know what they will get out of the session. In the past, we've heard from attendees that the session was very different than what was described. So again, just please keep those descriptions updated as your session evolves. And then as we move into July, we ask that you let Erin and I know if you need access to Slido or Miro. Try to get your notes documents updated and add your slide decks into your session folders at least a day before the meeting starts. And then we ask that you all join your session 30 minutes before it starts to make sure the room is set up the way you would like and to address any technical issues for in-person or virtual attendance, just so you can kind of get acquainted with how everything is set up. And then, as mentioned, we have already set up a notes document for each of your sessions. This document can be used as the participants' landing page. And again, it's a really great resource for virtual participants to be able to grab things and look at things as you're discussing them. But at the top, it lists your session title, the date and time of your session, and provides a link to your session in Sched. This is a framework with suggestions of what to include, but you can use this notes document in whatever way you would like. And I'll share the link to those Google folders for you as well. And again, those links are all in the notes document. And then we have 7 community fellows who will be supporting the event. There will be at least one of them in every session to serve as the Zoom host. There will also be a roving staff member available to support sessions. Community fellows will know how to get in touch with us, so they'll kind of be your point of contact, and we'll make sure you know each other before the meeting starts. What you're going to need to provide is anything related to content or moderation in their room and on Zoom. So someone to serve as that facilitator, leading the session and moving everyone through the agenda. Someone to watch the chat and elevate what is being shared or discussed there. And then we encourage collaborative note taking, but again, not everyone will be taking notes. So it's always good to have that designated note taker to ensure things that are important are being captured and shared there. And then I sometimes really like to have a timekeeper. Again, optional, but something to kind of think about just to make sure you're getting through the agenda in the time that you've allotted for different sections. And then finally, we used to have office hours for session organizers in the past, but no one ever came to them. So we've been having more success by offering one-on-one meetings that you can schedule just whenever you need to have a meeting. So a link to get a meeting scheduled is in the notes document. We have them set up for 30 minutes, but if you need longer, please just communicate that. We're happy to help in any way that we can. We also have a guidance document for presenters and session organizers that includes a lot of the information that I've shared today. I'm going to add that into the chat as well. And again, it's in the notes document. And I will add some of the suggestions that have come out of this chat today as well about having your own laptop to use the camera and some creative things like that, and be more explicit about exactly what's going to be in the room other than the microphones. But feel free to share that document with all of your session co-organizers and your presenters as well. But that wraps up our agenda for today. So I just want to open the floor to see if there are any remaining questions. And we will be sharing this recording back out with everyone. Again, the slides and everything are also available there. But we're here to help as you're getting closer to things. If you want any feedback on anything at all, that's what we're here for. So. Chris asked about email for Slido access. You will send an email to community@esipfed.org. That request actually goes into our project management system. So Zoe, Aaron, and I both monitor that, and then we basically assign it to someone, and we'll get it taken care of for you. So. Yeah, and then Stephanie was saying if there's outputs from Slido, adding those to the notes document is very helpful. So again, thinking about our colleagues and friends who are participating asynchronously and ways to help support their engagement. Wonderful. Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, just thinking about the one-on-ones, those are, I don't know how long you offer them, but I'm suspecting that doing quite a bit of design and then coming in for a polish is kind of the most effective use of those.
We've been
Or
having meetings even before folks submitted their session proposals. And so I'm happy to talk with you early on, a little bit later. I mean, anywhere you think you might get stuck. I'm hoping the worksheet that I shared with all of you, it kind of helps you walk through all of the things we talked about today so you can kind of start thinking about some things. I would say working through that a little bit might be a good first step, but feel free. And you can I mean, if you need to meet with me 3 or 4 times, that's totally fine. Again, that's what we're here for. So feel free to utilize this in whatever way. We don't want you to get stuck or frustrated or have questions and don't have the answer to them. Yes, feel free to connect with us at any time, at any point. So. Okay, grandkids. Thanks, Stephanie. I know it's really early in the morning for you. I appreciate you being here. Well, I know some folks are needing to jump. Don't feel like you need to stick around. We are done, but I'll stick around for the next little bit if anyone has any remaining questions. So, but thank you all so much. Y'all have been a really great audience and have some really great ideas. We love to get that feedback from all of you. Speaking of which, I do have a feedback form, and I can share it back out with you all later. But we just want to make sure these are serving y'all's needs. So I'm going to add a link to that in the chat if you want to take a little bit of time and let us know how this is and how we can improve it. But have really appreciated all the feedback. The more we hear from y'all and what makes the experience better for y'all, the better it's going to be for everyone. So really appreciate it.